Ready for more stories? Welcome to Reminiscing, our Highline history, a radio show presenting the memories of our community in the Highline area. Listen to a new episode every week, Monday and Tuesday, with your host, Roger Price, at 106.5 LP FM, South King County.
Hi, I'm Roger Price, and I'm a volunteer here at the Highline Heritage Museum. And today I'm doing a recording, KQWZ FM 106.5. I'm inside the museum. I'm going to interview Ken West, who's a longtime business owner and is kind of followed in his grandfather's footsteps and his dad's footsteps, and had the Perry West appliance store and TV store in Burien for, I'm guessing, maybe 50, 60 years and at least. So today I'd like to kind of get a little background and what Ken grew up with and how he got started in his dad's, following his dad in the business. So Ken, what do you want to add to that introduction?
Well, like the bulk of us around here, I'm an old Burien rat. There's a Highline High School, and it's funny, a lot of the business people in the time there had kids in Highline, and the Bremens and and well, I'm still friends with. So the community has always been near to my heart. So my dad came back after World War II and took the business from my grandfather, who started in 1937. So we had some. That's funny, I ended up working for Albert Lee, and Albert Lee's grandfather started in 1939, so I had him by 2 years if I persevered.
Oh, I remember reading a story in Highline Times about your grandfather. I think he started out in his home he lived down on Des Moines Way.
Exactly, down in Boulevard Park area. So, yeah, and then Old Burien, and then the present building. I still own the building at 431 Southwest 152nd. And then I had the building next door that we bought from Jack Stokes. That was the real estate office rebuilt there.
Insurance company.
Yeah, and then I built the dance studio back on 153rd. The Burien Dance Studio back there.
Oh yes,
But I got some pictures of us ripping the building down to build that one if you want them.
Oh wow, I'd like to take a look at those sometime. Yeah, you got so you had quite a bit of ties to just Burien back in the 1940s, and eventually your grandfather gave it up to your dad, and he got it started more in the location right there in the center of Burien. So and you lived pretty close to the store, so it was very easy to commute back and forth to work.
Exactly. Now, back in the early days, there was businesses restricted. There was, because of World War II, there was severe metal shortages. So a lot of time things where the product was allocated to customers, they put their name on a list for when they could get it. And it's funny because even back in the 80s, I had people remember their mom being on a waiting list to get a washing machine after the war, and they had fond memories in their heart to come back and frequent the business and supported their family.
Oh, I believe that, because you had customers that probably bought their first TV or their first washer and dryer from you back in the 40s that continued to buy all the way through their lifetime on into the 80s and 90s. So it was, you had a good business going on there for a long, long time.
Yeah, I actually started there in '62, working on the delivery. I sold my first range in 1962, and then I sold my last one in 2022. So it's 60 years I had in selling products.
Yeah, you did a long time in that particular business. Yeah, when you were in '62, you were probably only 14, 15 years old. So
exactly.
Your dad got you working at an early age, got you started, and I suppose you even had to clean up the cardboard that the crates that came in and flatten those out. I know kids used to like to go in the behind the store and get cardboard and
Big boxes.
take them home and build maybe a fort or do something with them. But there was always a demand for those cardboard boxes. So, and then you also had next door there was I think Australian pie or something, wasn't it? It was.
It started off as Deuce's Bakery.
Oh, okay. There you. I remember now.
They were there for many years. So they were, and then Aussie Pie came in later on, and they're still around there.
So your grandfather also he started when he had a store in Boulevard Park, and then he sold out of his house, and then they had one down here by probably was in kind of the location where Jim Moore's steakhouse was down in that or right around by the feed store too, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it had a Perry West, and then also you had a little competition. I remember Elmer's being probably your main competition back in those days too.
You know, it's funny. I ran into Elmer 2 weeks ago out at the horse races.
Oh, Elmer's still around.
Yeah, he's a feisty bugger.
Yeah, I imagine he kind of, and he was only a couple doors down from your store, so you guys probably had a little competition at times and different things. I don't know if he sold the same brands that you did, or
No, we had some seniority in that one. Elmer never wanted to leave. Georgette Valley and now Odd Valley sold the building out. He had a month-by-month rental agreement with him, and he was gonna buy the building eventually, but they sold it to I think it was Jaffe's, the pawn shop.
oh yes, I remember the pawn shop.
He was pretty disappointed about that, but that's what things go.
Yeah, he was in business too for quite a few years, but so you grew up and you lived over in Seahurst. You attended Lake Burien grade school, I'm sure, wasn't it?
Yeah, they ripped all the schools down that I went. I went to Lake Burien grade school, then they tore it down. Then I went to Seahurst Junior High School, and they tore it down. And it took them a while, but they finally got to Highline. So,
Yeah, and then they replaced Lake Burien. There's another elementary school there, but it's a little more modern than
it's Seahurst, and then they got a park where the Lake Burien was.
They kept that archway. Yeah.
Funny thing, Lake Burien grade school had its picture. They had a deal about Life magazine about the baby boom, and they had a picture of Lake Burien on the cover of it way back when.
Oh, I remember seeing that picture where all the kids are in the windows.
Yeah, my sister was in there.
Was she? Yeah. Oh, wow. So, yeah, you and your sister lived over there in Seahurst all the way through high school, wasn't it? Or
Yeah. My mom and dad, when I was in college, they moved down to Glen Acres, but yeah, they built a house on 146th and 20th.
Okay,
and
so
we started 146th and 18th.
I suppose you used to play in that gully that went down to Seahurst Park or Edmund Rowe Park, and just kind of wandered through there. I don't know.
We used to go there. They called the Indian Trail, but it was not the one on Three Tree Point, but the one went down to the water there. We would go down there daily, and you found arrowheads and stuff down there. It was pretty interesting.
Wow, yeah, that was of course that was probably in the 50s before it was Hurstwood came in. I would think Hurstwood was built maybe in the later 50s, maybe.
I think a little farther than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when because the roads were unpaved way back on those days, and it was dirt roads back there, and we lived on 146th and 18th. I remember one of my finest merchandising moments was they were putting the sewers in, and they were all hand digged back in those days, right?
Uh-huh.
And it was a really hot summer, and there was no 7-Eleven stores or anything around. Barney had a grocery store down in Sears, but that was the closest. These guys had nothing to drink, and there there's no running water yet. So I set a Kool-Aid stand out there, and all these guys that are digging, they had nowhere to get anything to drink. So
You'd sell them water.
I Kool-Aid at first, and then I realized I could get much more mileage out of Tang. So I had no conscience.
You were an entrepreneur back at an early age.
I was, and my mom was disgusted with me.
Oh, yeah, I remember when I think Albrita put in a lot of the sewers in the Highline area back in those days too. Yeah, so there's a little controversy with Albrita back in those days about Lake Burien, but that's for another subject, another time. But yeah, so it was, and then you went on to Highline, well, you were telling me one time about your mom was involved in, I think it was football at the old field house and play field in the middle of Burien.
HYRA, the Burien Bearcats, was for Highline Youth Recreation Association. She was the original secretary. I still have the whole scrapbook. I tried to get a hold of them one time and turn it over because it had way back where from whence it came. So yeah, and it's funny because a lot of those guys I play ball with are, again, still buddies of mine,
Yeah.
And it was Gene Tomlinson, you know him well. And
Sure.
he was the quarterback and I was the center, so.
You had a combination right there.
Yeah, we did all the way through school.
Yeah. Oh, sure, yeah. Gene's still around. He lives out of, what is it, Lake Tapps area.
Lake Tapps, yeah.
But, yeah, there was a lot of good friendships back in those days. And then you also, when you had your business, you also sponsored a softball team in which you were played on, along with several of your good friends back then.
Mm-hmm.
So,
once again, the same guys that we still, it's funny how many guys back from those days, because schools were different back in those, there was a lot more interaction amongst your schoolmates after school dances, and everybody went to the football games and
yeah, oh sure, yeah. Then it's whether it was and the Burien Fieldhouse was a good place for kids to gather, and you could shoot hoops there, or they had the play field for Little League baseball, and
well, they had the big stadium right across from the store, basically.
Yeah,
and we used to play football there.
And they had the tennis courts that were almost directly across from your store.
Yep.
So it was you could walk out the front door, and there was a large stadium there. I can remember as a young kid, I'd go watch the older kids play baseball games, and they'd hit a foul ball up over the grandstand, and if you went back and you could retrieve the ball, you might get a nickel or 10 cents for it to bring it
back. That was
back.
a big buck back in those days.
Yeah, it was a bottle of pop or maybe some baseball cards or something. But
well, that was perfect because they had Dairy Queen right down in the corner there, so you could go as soon as your game's over. The coaches all took you over and bought you an ice cream cones.
Yeah. And, that Dairy Queen was a popular place, very popular back then. I know my sister actually worked there, and I think it was around 1956, and I saw a picture of the Dairy Queen, and on the back of it had a little note on the back that said that my sister had worked there from like May of 1956 to June of 1956. And I thought, wow.
She had a long career.
yeah, 2 months.
She retired on her tips.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny. But you also had several businesses. Next to you, you had the Dad and Lad store, which was a nice men's dress store at that time, and also Clark Cleaners and Parker Hobby Shop. I bet you went into Parker Hobby Shop once or twice.
Once a week, and still buddies with Al and Randy. So that's I used to go bug him all the time, and then he did the. We got a photography done there too for all the school pictures.
Oh, Bob Parker, yes.
Park,
yeah, and I know the grandpa that had the hobby shop. he built so many different models. I don't know how he could do all those things because he had models hanging from the ceiling, airplanes. It was a genuine, nice hobby shop. And kids back in those days, they enjoyed doing models and different things, whether it was cars or airplanes or what.
Yeah, I had one of my great catastrophes there. We had these boats we built, and they had little electric motors went in the back of them, and they had this Evinrude motor that went sit in the back of us. It was battery powered, but it was expensive for me. I saved my money all summer long to buy this motor, and I took it up and we went out on Lake Burien here. We had friends up there. Took it out in the lake and put it down, and the motor was heavier than the boat. It tipped on its back and sunk right to the bottom of Lake Burien. So
Oh, boy,
I got nothing for the summer.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
It was. I was crestfallen.
And plus, there's a lot of muck in Lake Burien, so it was probably gone forever.
Oh yeah, there's weeds on the bottom. You could go down 5 feet and touch the milkweed or whatever was coming up from the bottom.
Oh boy, that's
Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, that was kind of some of the highlights of your summer. Of course, there back in those days, there was also the hydroplanes were a big thing in Burien and Miss Burien. So
Yeah.
I know they used to have big parades in Burien. They'd run all the way from 10th Southwest, and they would go all the way down 152nd. And they'd go all to Highline High School. So, and this would be it wasn't a 4th of July parade back then. It was called the Hydro Highlights, and there would be unlimiteds and limiteds. So it was a big to do in Burien back then.
I got a picture of me in one of the parades with my boxing gloves on, and I was 5, I think, walking up the street with me in the Burien parade. In fact, yeah, Bill Brow he was our milkman.
Oh, wow, yeah, you had Bill Brow for your milkman, yeah.
And he ran over my sled.
Oh, he did with his milk truck, huh?
Yeah, it was snowed out. He ran over my sled. So.
Well, maybe he didn't quite see it. Who knows?
Oh, he couldn't have stopped anyway. The driveway was fairly steep, so it wasn't his fault.
No, that was pretty funny. Yeah. Oh yeah, Brow's. I remember Becky Brow. I went to school with her, but
Wasn't Jack? Isn't he?
and he was a year younger than I was. So yeah. Unfortunately, they're both gone now. But yeah, those were good times, and the Miss Burien. It had a few good races and a few that weren't so good, but it was kind of an expensive hobby. So my hat goes off to those owners that own those hydroplanes to keep the tradition alive for so long.
That was kind of the focal point of the whole summer was the hydro races, the Gold Cup.
Yes, it sure was. I mean, because we didn't have those Seahawks back then, or the Sonics or Mariners. So hydroplane racing, the Seafair, was a big fun thing to do back in those days.
We hated Detroit, and they hated us.
Yeah. So, no, that was we grew up in a pretty fun time actually. So.
You mentioned the field house over there. I remember when they moved they moved it down to a Rue School.
Mm-hmm.
That was an ordeal.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of the field house on the middle of 152nd on big rollers, like I don't know, but the truck would pull it down the street, and it must have taken a good day or two to get it down, move it 6 blocks.
Well, they had to disconnect everything in the world to get it down there. The stoplights and the.
Oh, that's true too. The power lines had to be all raised up a little bit. So, that was a major effort moving that Rue School. It seems like Gil Duffy was part of the. I think he purchased part of the land down there where the field house and play field was. But it ended up being, I think, a West Side Federal Savings or something was in there. And then the Burien 400 eventually went in there. But, those were quite good deals back then. But let's see, what else was it back in those days? Well, you sold a lot of appliances. We know that. And so, what was of course, TVs? Then the color TVs kind of was the age where color TVs were starting to pick up in the 1960s, wasn't it? Was that when they started to really take off, or?
Yeah, we had the first color TV in our block back in Sears, and I remember the whole neighborhood. I mean, there would be probably 20 people jammed into our living room trying to see this thing on TV. It was pretty fun actually. And then, yeah, there were so many changes over time. The appliances, and it's still going to continue to change, and electronics, and I had the appliance store, and then we built next door. We built the electronics store, and VCRs and camcorders and all the attending paraphernalia. And then Elmer they did movie rentals. That's another business that's come and gone.
Oh, uh-huh.
I see where Netflix is going to take on brick and mortar stores now. Isn't that a?
Oh, yeah, they were VHS, or wasn't that
Yeah,
it? Or-
VHS. Yeah, that was Elmer's big thing. He rented a lot of movies.
Oh, okay. And then they went to what was it? Not DVDs, or yeah. And now, Netflix is going to do something. They're going to do something in the different stores now.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. There was on TV last night. It's funny how things run full circle.
Oh, sure.
Back to where we were.
Yeah, it is. It's funny how history does kind of, in many ways, repeats itself. So, yeah. No, that was... and then also across from the street was Bell's of Burien, which was the big main clothing store in Burien. And Merrill Bell was really the main character in getting all that stuff started. And he kind of started out up near closer to the Key Bank, or Seattle Trust and Savings Bank back then. Mm-hmm. And then they moved down pretty close. The parking lot was just about across the street from your store.
Yeah, he was a good pal of my dad's.
Oh, okay.
And then Dorsey Prater had Prater's 5 and 10 here, right across from where Key Bank is now. And then he did real well, but he sold that business, and he built a building called the Swept Wing Inn, which is down the corner of 188th and Pacific Highway South, which is down, there's a La Cinta Inn or whatever it is down there now. But it was a great, big, innovative, it was really nice, Swept Wing Inn. It was
real modern.
Very modern, yeah, and it was a huge development down there, but they were before their time. The airport hadn't developed as it is now, but he was.
Oh, he built that. I did not know that.
Yeah, that was Dorsey's.
I've seen pictures in the Highline Times of when they were constructing that Swept Wing Inn, and it was futuristic kind of looking. It was really kind of cool looking building, and it was kind of across from a little bit from the cemetery too, Washington Memorial, wasn't it? A little bit south of there.
Yeah, it was kind of the Doubletree Inn was kind of the main thing it was across from.
Oh, uh-huh.
It was kind of in that corner down there. But yeah, Dorsey was good. They had a kind of a core group of guys that, back in those days, the big thing, my dad and granddad and my mom, the same way, is there was really a lot of community involvement with the core business community. My dad was president of Kiwanis. My mom was president for Optimus. My grandfather was district governor of Kiwanis, and the buildings. I know they still, to a degree, but it's not as much as it was, because a lot of the smaller businesses went by the wayside when South Center came in.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They tried to get my dad to go into South Center when Weisfield was building it, but it was their financial demands were pretty intense.
Oh, I see. Yes, that was kind of a downfall for Burien, was when South Center went in down there. Yeah, it was kind of one of those situations where a lot of the residents in Burien kind of wanted a few more stores to shop at, but But you kind of have to be careful what you wish for, because that turned out to be kind of hurt the business with Burien quite a bit. So
Well, I used to tell people, my business was different because it was very labor intensive. You can't put a washing machine in the middle of a mall and wheel it out the door. But people would go down there and say, "Why don't you shop? You got Al Berman and Clothes Horse over here, and Dad and Lad, and Benson's and Margie's, and there's a lot of women's shops. There just isn't women's shops and men's shops around anymore. I'm sure you've gone to want to buy a shirt or something, and you."
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, Al Emhoff, you mentioned one there. Yeah,
Yeah.
And Berman's Clothes Horse. Yeah, that was another one. I did a little story on them once back a few years ago. But yeah, they were really good men's shops and good, like you say, Margie's was in business in Burien for many, many years. So it's it all kind of goes full circle, but it's too bad we don't have any more of those anymore now.
Well, the illusion was created that prices were better, but the reality was not. Maybe selection was more because you had a broader, physical plant. But I think that it was more than offset the fact you're supporting your own community. I miss that. That's
Yes.
one thing I miss about Burien is the fact there's.
I do too, and I think you have to be careful because you might have the price may be better, but is the quality there? So that's you got to weigh one against the other, and you just don't have quite the quality. I don't think either.
No,
nowadays.
not at all. And it's our community. That's what I always try to tell people. Say you got to support where you live because otherwise it won't be there.
That's right. And you mentioned earlier about Stokes Insurance next door. There was back in the 50s. There was Burien had quite a junior chamber of commerce back then, and all the owners they were all kind of good friends, and they would have meetings together, and they all supported each other. So that was something that's kind of lost now. But I think we could return to something like that, where we all kind of work together and help each other in different ways that we can make the community a better place.
Well, and that's what's kind of nice to see in a respect, particularly like when they finally got this development across the street done, is you're getting a broader base of potential customers out there to support these communities in retail. Retail is what we really miss, and I don't know about you, I don't enjoy going to South Center much anymore because of the shenanigans going on.
Yes, exactly.
I much prefer to be able to go down the street and to buy from. So if we get enough of a base for customer base, maybe we'll get more and more retail stores in Burien, and that's my hope for it.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. That would be something we can continue to always strive to become a better community. And I think that like your store and different ones over the years, they all did really well and got the most out of what they could for the length of time they were there. But and they supported family incomes. I know I worked at the little Burien Food Center here. It's just across the street here next to Kirk's Feet. And back in the 60s, that little grocery store, it supported like 6 or 7 different families just in that little store. So it was, and then we had Bud's Delicatessen across the street there. So they believe that's a roofing company now, but Bud's was in there, and so it was a lot of good little shops back there.
You were at the IGA up on 128th, weren't you?
Also, yes, Emil's IGA, 136.
136, that's it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun too, because we had the gardens, Burien Gardens, right behind there, and I can remember once in a while we'd have to home delivery, and I'd have to take somebody's groceries up into the gardens, deliver their groceries to them, and trying to figure out what building I was going to.
Never figure, my delivery guys had the same issues.
Yeah, it was kind of a maze in there of what was what, but they've been there for. I think they were built around just after the war in about 1949.
Didn't Wes Ullman buy those? The mayor of Seattle?
It could have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Possibly. Wow. Yeah. Well, that was. So we've kind of covered everything. Yeah. I don't know what else. Now, what else? Let's see. Maybe. I don't know. I'd like to do an interview. Now, your sister was a few years older than you, wasn't she? But she wasn't a part of. Did she work at your appliance store much, or?
She, after her first marriage broke, she came back in there for the transition. She worked there for a while, and then she married another Burien guy, Dr. Steve Brooks, and then who was sister is married to my best Morgan Turner's married to.
I didn't know that.
And then she married Bob Fox.
Oh yeah, okay, the Fox family. Yeah.
There's a guy I miss because there would have been a good interview with that guy. He's a storytelling guy.
And I'd like to do that sometime. Is do a story about the Fox family that owned the property where Seahurst Beach is now. And I think that there's one of the brothers is still around, so possibly I can get a.
I'll get his number for you. He's over in Bellevue.
Oh, okay.
Bob's son is still, and Jackie, I think his daughter, I think they're still around here somewhere. But
oh, okay, that would be that would be kind of interesting. I'd love to do that story.
I'm sure Joe Wisen has Bobby's number.
Yeah, Bob, I believe he does. Yeah, and I'm gonna talk to Joe. I'd like to have Joe too because he's been in Burien his whole life also. So there's a lot of different potential good interviews from people that have lived in the Burien area, but I wanted to get Terry West in there because they're one of the main players in Burien back in the good old days. But
we were back at the beginning.
Yeah, and also there was back then there was a dentist's office, doctor's office, that's just right practically next door to you. Like you said, didn't you say Valley, Dr. Hot Valley or something was down there? Or?
Yeah, Hot Valley, and there's a dentist down where before the Dairy Queen was there, Tom Holtz.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Dr. Holtz, yes. Yeah. Dr. Holtz and Dr. Morrison, I believe.
Yeah.
They were in the building where the Windermere, I think, is now, or something like that. Yeah, that's another one too. So, yeah, that was one reaches into the other. Well, gee, Ken, I think we really have done a pretty good job in covering. I don't know. You probably have a lot of more stories, but
we could talk for days, right?
Yeah. The different things that happened at your store, and the cardboard and the different things that kids play. I suppose there was a few mishaps on the loading dock over the years too, where maybe something didn't quite get onto the truck that maybe it's, I don't know, but
oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny, we're talking, this is off the subject, but they were talking about Burien got some forward thrust funds way back when, and they only had, the time limit was running out, but they had to spend the money. So they took away the parking on 152nd, and they broadened the curbs out, and they put these planters out there.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then they got it all done, and then they found the fire department couldn't make the corners. But they were in a hurry to spend the money.
Yeah.
George Valley.
Oh boy. Oh, I can remember. Yeah, I have pictures from I've seen in the Highline times when Burien was actually 2 lanes each way, and plus there was parallel parking on the side, so it was about 6 lanes wide. And then they've kind of changed it over the years to, and it's maybe more pedestrian friendly now, I'm sure of it. But like you say, you still have to think about fire departments and different things. So there's always a good side, but there's always you got to look at the side that
exactly, and it always comes around, and it'll come out eventually. But you want to try to catch it at the beginning of the
before you've invested all your money into it.
Yes,
so.
exactly.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess we can kind of wrap this up for this, but maybe we'll, do another continuation at some other point sometime. But I'm sure glad that we got a chance to hash it over again, Ken.
Well, me too. They're all good memories here. Like I said, this is from where I came and still here. So
Yeah. You're like me. There must be something here that keeps us here. So
well, there's so many of guys too. The families have come away and then they come back as they find all the beauty that's here.
yeah, I know when. Well, you graduated 66 and I was 67, so we've remained here all these years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our friends have kind of they've gone to different areas of the South End or whatever, but we still get the chance to get together at reunions in different times. So
You guys get your golf tournament every summer. So
yes, the Highline Alumni Golf Tournament, which is good for the scholarships for Highline High School. So it's a fun time. Well, okay, Ken.
All right, Raj, thank you very much, and I appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thank you.